Music festivals. Ever wanted to go to one as a normal patron but still get some good photos to remember the day? Stay tuned to this video and I'll cover some tips and tricks that I used at a recent one myself. These days, there seems to be a lot of rules and restrictions on what camera equipment you can take to some of these music festivals. The rules of the festival I recently went to were no professional cameras, no large lenses, no video recorders, no professional audio recording equipment. Now, depends what you class as a professional camera, but I decided to take what didn't look as much like a professional camera. I took my Panasonic GX8, which I'm not going to show you because currently right now it's recording me. This covers one of the many stupid rules of modern day festivals of no professional audio recording. I'm recording on 4K at the moment in a camera that could fit in a jacket pocket. But I digress. So I took the GX8 over the EM1 because this to me looks more like the DSLR style camera. Now I didn't know how strict the security was going to be and I wanted to avoid any red flags. And even though this is a small camera still, I thought that the GX8 looked a little bit more discreet and would be easier to get in. Now, so what equipment did I take? As I mentioned, I took the GX8 because it looks a less serious camera. The lens that I had equipped on it, and actually coincidentally am using to record this video at the moment, was Panasonic 20mm f1.7 because yet again it made the camera look smaller, and with the festival rule that no large lenses were allowed to be taken in. The bag I took on the day was a Peak Designs Everyday Messenger, which if you want to see my review of, it will be linked in the corner, whichever corner YouTube puts video links. Now it was an all-day event that finished at about 11 PM. It was a very hot day, but for just in case, I did take a lightweight jacket. Packed up small, wasn't hard to put in the bag. When I got to the security gate, I opened up the bag and showed them I've got a jacket, and I pulled out a drink bottle because there was a rule that you could take empty plastic drink bottles. Now the reason why I took a 1 litre Nalgene over one of my other drink bottles was because it was a very hot day. It was mid-30s. Water consumption is important to not get dehydrated or heat stroke or something like that. So I took a big drink bottle. They have water stations in there. Now check what's supplied at the various festivals. You might not have the flexibility of either taking that much, but do remember to stay hydrated. Once I'd shown them my jacket and drink bottle, the security checkpoint could see that I had a small camera in the bag. I didn't actually pull it out, the GX8 with a 20mm lens on it. They never asked to see what was in the field pouch and never asked to see what was in the bottom of the bag. It might not have been the reason why, but I think that it helped that I was friendly and helpful to show them what was in the bag. If you act nervous like you're trying to smuggle in recording equipment, which I didn't try to take, it would have been nice to do some of this video there, but I wasn't going to push the limits. If you show them that you're not trying to hide anything, then they're more likely to quickly wave you through. They've got a heap of other people in line, but if you act all nervous and or have pro gear like spilling out of the bag, then you're probably going to get looked at harder. So I was helpful, like jacket, water bottle, there's the camera, and they let me through. I'll get to what's in the field pouch in a moment, but what I also had in the bottom of the bag under the compartments, I had my Olympus 75-300mm zoom. Now the reason why I took this lens is because it's got phenomenally good reach and it's quite small. And if they did question it, I would have passed it to them. It's plastic construction, really lightweight. I did find that some of the photos I took with this lens look a little bit soft, but that being said, the reach of this lens, I probably wouldn't have got the same photos without it. Now what I would have liked to have taken instead of this lens was the Olympus 40-150 2.8. Yes, it's half as much reach, but it's a lot faster lens and a lot better quality. The reason why I didn't take it was it is considerably larger than the other lens. Even with the hood and tripod collar removed, you can see it is quite a bit larger. It's also heavier if they did do an inspection, and It looks a lot more like a pro piece of glass, probably because it actually is a pro lens. But I thought it's best to make sure that I get in with something that I can use rather than getting stopped at security and having the hassle of trying to explain that, oh, my bad, or having to run stuff back to the car, which wasn't very easy to park near the event. Also in the bag, I had my Olympus FL600 flash. Now, I didn't end up using this flash, but at concert photography, I have used camera flash before. Also, a festival is quite a social event. I might have wanted to get a group shot of some friends in the dark. It's a really small flash. It didn't matter if it was in the bag. Didn't use it, but it was better having it knowing that I had that option. Short of that, in the rest of the bag, I had just the typical accessories, some spare batteries, etc, etc. One thing that was interesting was I was able to shoot the whole day on one Panasonic GX8 battery. Now, I took a lot of photos. Yes, some of them were in bursts, but I still took hundreds of photos above the rated battery. Now, moving on to the field pouch, this is where I had stashed all of my other lenses. Now, I say stashed, but really they were all really small prime lenses. It wouldn't have mattered too much if I'd seen them, except for maybe the quantity. Now, in here I had the Panasonic 25 1.7. Probably didn't need to take this, having the 20mm with me, but I figured it fitted in my bag. I may as well bring it along. I also had the Olympus 45 1.8. I used this lens a lot throughout the day. The Olympus 60mm f2.8 macro lens. Obviously I didn't use it as a macro lens, but it was the longest, fastest lens that I had without taking the prior mentioned 40 to 150 2.8. Was extremely helpful later on in the evening. And I actually also took the Panasonic 14mm 2.5. Now, it's one of the regrets that I didn't actually use this lens during the festival. I wanted to go take a photo of the whole event and show how many people were there and how it was all set up. But every time I wandered around, I ran into people I knew and wound up socializing and stuff like that. More on that tip later. The other thing the field pouch was useful for on the day was I actually attended this event with some other people. I was able to leave my camera bag at our little spot that we had set up, and I fitted the camera strap via the little anchor points to a camera strap, and even put the camera capture clip on the front of the pouch and just use this as a walkabout camera bag with my prime lenses in it. But it was a useful feature, and I still plan to do a more in-depth review on this another time. Now, out of the prime lenses I took, the two that I did use the most were the 45 and the 60mm lens. Now, the reason why this is, as a patron, obviously I had to stand on the other side of the fence and wasn't allowed to get too close to the stage. Earlier in the day, I used the 45 1.8 a lot. Even later in the evening when I wanted to get the whole stage in, the 45mm at f1.8 made a great lens for that. Obviously, if you're shooting full frame, an 85, 1.8 or 1.4 is the equivalent, and it's a very useful range for doing concert or festival photography. What I did lean on a lot later in the evening when there's more people around the stage was the 60mm 2.8. Now, I don't think this was the best possible lens to have there, but it was the best that I had on me. I don't actually own the 75 1.8, but if I did, that would have been the lens that I was using. Would have been a good length to get detailed shots, and the f1.8 aperture would have been good for the low light. That being said, even when it gets dark at festivals and concerts, there is still a lot of light to take photos with. The band is lit up by various lighting effects, and it's surprising what shutter speeds you can get. But keep an eye on it. I noticed that early in the day I was setting my ISO manually, and in bright daylight ISO 200 was plenty. I actually had to dial in a bit of exposure compensation because the sun was blowing out some of the exposure. When it got dark, I thought I would try setting the camera in auto ISO. I was a little bit surprised when the camera was telling me that it was shooting 100th or 125th of a second at f2.8 until I noticed it was setting itself to ISO 3200. I know from my personal experience that 50th, 60th of a second should be fast enough of a shutter speed, so I manually dialed the camera back to ISO 1600. That being said, even ISO 3200 on modern sensors is fine. So that's the equipment that I took. Now what did I find? So a couple of tips to actually do the shooting of the artists playing on stage. The modern day articulating and tilting screens on most cameras is a very useful feature. I was able to tilt the screen and hold the camera above my head, look up, frame it above the crowd. Now remember when shooting landscapes how you normally try to put the horizon at 1/3 line. Do the same with the crowd. The photo doesn't just have to be of a single subject. Get the surrounding area in to give context to the photo. Speaking of the surrounding area, be ready to shoot some photos of a crowd or some interesting candidates that you might see happening. There's a lot of people at these events, there's a lot happening, and all goes to telling the story of the event. Other than shooting over people's heads, another good strategy for getting good stage photos is to actually go to the stage from an angle. Most people just stand in front of the stage and cause a big crowd out from there. If you approach a stage from the side, personally I was able to be right at the fence line, the equivalent of being in the front row just off to an angle. And again, looking at the LCD rather than using the viewfinder, I was able to get over the speaker banks to get some clear shots. When shooting the action on the stage, think of exactly that as action. Put your camera in burst mode and take groups of photos, just in case you miss that exact moment where there's the perfect lighting or the perfect bit of action. As a bonus concert photography tip, more so than a festival tip, when I've been to concerts, they normally don't have these same rules and restrictions that festivals have, and I've taken a heap more professional gear and not really cared or been hassled by security guards. I used to take my full-framed Nikon DSLR. I've even taken and used my 70 to 200 f2.8 and flashes on the cameras. As long as you act like you're meant to be there and also are polite enough to people, don't go shoving through people, but also don't act all timid like you're not meant to be there. If you go in with a camera confidence, it's amazing what you can get away with. When there's not been a lot of people up in front of the bands, I've gone up with a 28 or 50mm prime lens and a camera flash. Sometimes you can get up really close to the artist and get really close-up shots with great detail. Just be mindful that if it's a mosh pit or something like that, that you don't get knocked over with your gear. Now for the most important tip of going to a festival and taking photos at it. Don't forget to enjoy the festival. You're not there for photos. The music is great, there's great atmosphere. As I mentioned, it's a social event as well. I personally ran into friends that I hadn't seen for years. So don't just get wrapped up in getting the shot. Make sure you enjoy yourself. If you enjoy yourself, the photos will probably mean more because they bring back good memories. So go, enjoy yourself, take a few photos, but don't make it your sole purpose in life. That's it for this video. Please hit like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to keep updated, and stay tuned for next one. Jeffrey out.